interesting, Craig. We've both been on holiday, but it's the same old conversation when it comes to Manchester United. Who the hell's going to be in charge of the new season? Pochettino is evens to take over, but there was developments, of course, over the last 48 hours where there were suggestions that United approached Thomas Tuchel. He thought about it, but he said no. For more on this, let's welcome in Gab Marcotti, of course, has been following everything over the summer for us, Gab. Is that true? They spoke to Tuchel and he said no?
Well, it depends. It depends kind of which side you listen to, because Fabrizio, that's what Fabrizio Romano, the transfer reporter, reported earlier today, that Tuchel and Tuchel's camp confirmed it, that after meeting with Ratcliffe, he decided he wasn't going to go forward with it. You pick up tomorrow's papers here in London, a lot of them saying, Manchester United decide not to go forward with Thomas Tuchel. And look, listen, I think realistically, they talk to each other, and sometimes more than one thing can be true, right? They probably spoke to each other, and United evidently weren't ready to perhaps make him an offer, and maybe I'm speculating here, speculation alert, and he kind of said, all right, well, these guys are still figuring things out. Let me go and wait for somebody else. So I think that's how both sources of very well-sourced, reliable information can be true, I guess.
What we do know is that Ineos do not rate the current manager. They do not rate him. They do not trust him. They don't want to trust him with any money, because if they did, they would put a stop to this now. Mm-hmm. But they're not. That tells you that they do not rate the current manager of Manchester United. How does that make him feel? Not that we're his biggest fan this season, because we're not. And they had success at the end in the FA Cup, but it was a dreadful season in the league, and he had a bad season. But I think he deserves a little bit more than to be left hanging.
Yep. Basically, you're trying to find somebody better, and if you can't, well,
it's a bit like Bayern Munich were doing until they went and got Vincent Kompany, which was the left of left fields, right? Yep. When they hawked themselves around publicly, everybody, all and sundry, asking them if they wanted the job, and they're all like, nah, you're a bit of a shambles. And this is what Manchester United are doing. And, part of the criticisms of the Glazer tenure, which is still there but has changed in terms of structure, was the people behind the scenes, how they went about the business of recruiting players and managers, but particularly players. And it was very shoddy, it was very unprofessional in the modern age, it was very amateurish. They leave everything to the last minute and then have a bit of a panic up and go, oh, it will pay extra because we're now desperate. And everybody sort of felt that with Man United. Let's just let them hang on for a bit and they'll pay more and we'll squeeze and we'll squeeze. And it feels like they haven't learnt the lessons here, but I'll come back to it. Erik Ten Hag is an experienced coach. He's coached, he's managed, he's been in the Champions League, he's at least brought some silverware, but he's sitting at home going, these people do not want me at the football club. Mm-hmm. So if they say to him, right, you're running the ship next year, how does that make him? How is he going to cope with that, knowing that they were trying to get other people to come in and do the job?
And I think the weird thing through all of this is there's still this reporting that Manchester United haven't really made a decision on Ten Hag, which, let's be honest, I mean, I'm not sure how you go, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the FA Cup final and you're still undecided. You've got to make a decision one way or the other. I think it's a disservice to Erik Ten Hag just to kind of keep him hanging on and treading water while you're having conversations with all and sundry about the possibility of them taking over, and you're keeping him as a plan D just in case you get knocked back as often as Bayern Munich does. I just feel Manchester United have handled everything about this transition, and maybe because of the FA Cup win makes it a little bit more complicated. But given the time since then, surely by now, if you're intent on moving forward, make some decisions, make some firm statements, and address what is clearly a need.
Why don't they just get Pochettino, Gam?
Well, I think they're not sure about the terms that they want. I mean, I appreciate what the guys were saying, but equally, and I am playing devil's advocate here a little bit, Erik Ten Hag is highly paid. He's also a grown-up. If, it would be different if they'd gone to him and says, Erik, yeah, you're the guy. We love you. We have total faith in you. And then they went behind his back. But I would like to give Ratcliffe and Brailsford the benefit of the doubt that they went to you and said, Erik, this is a tough situation because we were pretty piss poor last season. And so we're going to see if we can get somebody else to come in who we think is better than you. And if it happens, you'll be paid off handsomely. We're all grown-ups here. If it doesn't happen, then it may be you next year. And we expect you to be a professional, and you're highly paid to go out and do your job professionally. In terms of recruitment, we're overhauling things. Ashworth's on his way. Barada's on his way. They've already pretty much briefed that Jason Wilcox will kind of lay out how the team's going to play and do a lot of the transfer stuff, so they feel they're not behind on that.
Hey, what about my original question? Why don't they just get Pochettino, Gab?
Well, because they're not. I don't think they're totally convinced by Pochettino. You've heard them come out and say, right? Well, I haven't said it directly, but they've briefed it to a bunch of people that they're bringing in all these technical people, led by Jason Wilcox and Ashworth and whatnot, to go and really drive the transfer policy. And that means driving it from the club's perspective more than from the manager's perspective. Pochettino was in a situation like that at Chelsea. Remember the story of the set piece coach and some players he liked, some players he didn't like so much. And that is part of the reason he's no longer there. Maybe they don't think Pochettino's a right fit for that. Maybe they think there's a better fit for it. Maybe Pochettino's like, big job, but do I really want to have Jason Wilcox coming by and, telling me about his new signings and whatever when I want to sign somebody else? I don't know. I mean, I can only guess that they're saying, this is really important. Let's take our time. It's certainly odd that it's taking forever.
If it's really important, take their time, then sack him. Sack him now and then if he's not the man to take them forward, and they clearly don't think so, you might as well make that change now. Right. He's a sitting duck. It goes back to my initial point. He's a sitting duck with no power. He knows they don't want him. And even if they keep him, Gab, he's going to have no say in any transfers, none whatsoever, because they don't trust him. They've only got to look at some of the players that he brought in, Anthony in particular. So his hands are tied behind his back. He's not going to walk away, because no manager's going to walk away from millions. Nobody in their right mind. But if you have got some managers out there, people that are going to be better going forward, what's the point in keeping this guy in place? I don't understand.
So there's two schools of thought there. One is what you said before about him and having say in transfers. Remember, at Ajax, he worked with a director of football. He worked with a club. It's not like he was going out there and picking the players to sign himself. So that might not necessarily be a bad thing, not letting him near the transfers, as we saw from some of those poor transfers that he made.
I'm sure he had an input at Ajax into transfers. An input. He's going to have no input here in this scenario.
Okay, let me ask you this, Gab. What is more likely, at the start of the season, Ten Hag being in charge or another?
I would guess another. And look, and I was going to say this is the other elephant in the room. There is a school of thought there that says that the guy that they really want is the man currently managing England, Gareth Southgate. But for many different reasons, Southgate, isn't going to come out and say, hey, I'm off after the Euros to go manage Manchester United. Could they be stringing it out until they wait for England to get knocked out of the Euros, and then Southgate reinvents himself as Manchester United? Which, by the way, if England throw up a stinker and have many more games like the ones they had against Iceland, that's not really going to excite United fans either. There's a school of thought that certainly leans that way. And then there's the other slightly more depressing one, which is to do with Ten Hag's contract. And some outlets have reported that because United aren't in Europe, he's going to get a 20% pay cut. And that somehow that's going to make his payoff cheaper, but only after July 1st. And so that way they're going to hang on until then and then make their move. I would find that pretty depressing and frankly humiliating if that was the case. Kind of nickel and diming for 1 or 2 million when you're kind of losing time elsewhere. But yeah, what can I tell you? These are the scenarios.
Wow. I've got a lot of time for Gareth Southgate as a person. But he's not a manager in Manchester United.
Look at the outcry when he was initially linked to United. There was no one was particularly excited.
The England job came about because the FA were in the shambles off the back of Allardyce and other scenarios. ultimately Gareth was manager at Middlesbrough and whatnot.
Are you allowed to call him Gareth then?
Southgate, all right. Managing Manchester United. It was a slip of the tongue. Week off. Will never happen again, sorry. So, managing Manchester United is completely different. And also, if this is, and this, as Gab said, this name has been mooted for several months now, if that is the route that they possibly want to go down, what happens if he goes to this Euros that starts in a week's time, or less than a week's time, and has an absolute stinker? An absolute stinker. They cannot. They've then got no chance of selling it to the Manchester United supporters.
Surely they can only have a stinker or win it.
What do you mean?
Given the expectations around England.
No, I'm talking a real stinker.
But even if they get knocked out, even if they get knocked out in, say, the quarterfinals, because there's big expectations around England, you're not like, we're going to have someone who couldn't
did you
get
see them?
this England
Have you
team
seen
together.
the last couple of games?
Well, of course,
they've
been terrible.
Yeah.
And of course,
they go there and say, do like what, like France 2016.
Yes.
When Hodgson went there and they were a disaster. I mean, there's been multiple others, obviously, but it's been better recently. It's been a lot better. But I feel there are some, I don't know why, but some negative connotations have raised their head going into this Euros. Squad selection, he has gone away from his tradition, which is loyalty, and he's gone with a lot of these younger, informed players. There's been some discussion about the ones he signed at the back. They've had a couple of iffy performances and results. Yep. This is a difficult sell for me, for Manchester. It's a real difficult sell, Gareth Southgate to Man United, even if England were to go pretty much and win the damn thing in the summer. I still think...
Then why would you leave? Why not then just take England to the World Cup?
Being a club manager and being an international manager is apples and oranges.
We've been having this discussion for months, I imagine.
Well,
for Manchester United.
We hate Man United, and that's why we've got to talk about it.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know.